This is Can You Believe with Brad Pomerance. We got a real special guest today. You probably know his name, if not his voice. His name is John Ondrasik, and I am a huge fan and have been for, decades. When you hear his singing voice, you know it's him. It's tender yet deliberate. It's gentle but resolute. And it's filled with an emotionality that unfolds slowly but invites you in as a listener and as John takes us on his musical journeys. You know John because his musical royalty from the early 2000s and into the modern era. He's known as the platinum-selling, Grammy-nominated 5 for Fighting, and his mega hit, of course, is the song Superman. He's released 6 LPs. That's Gen X parlance. For Gen Z parlance, he's had over 1 billion streams. And John, I got to tell you something. You don't know this, so it's a little bit of a surprise. We're kind of mishpucha, which means family. So let me tell you how. My wife's first cousin's wife's sister's husband is bassist Sean Hurley.
Oh my goodness.
And I'll tell you, so Sean plays bass for John. Sean plays for John. And I only knew that, honestly, because when I was preparing for the interview, I saw your bandmates listed and there was Sean Hurley. And so I texted his wife. I said, I'm interviewing John Ondrasik tomorrow. And she was raving about you. And I got to tell you, John, what was so moving about her raving was, one, she said you're very kind to Sean, which is great. But she talked about your commitment to Israel and to Ukraine. That's the first thing she said. And so when I heard that coming from her, I knew that there was something special here. So, and also you're Slovak. I'm a quarter Slovak. So there's that. So let's talk a bit about you and your career, especially in this decade, because you've really used your platform to call attention to crises around the world. Blood on My Hands with regard to Afghanistan. Can One Man Save the World with regard to the Ukraine? And then there's Superman. I'm just, for those that don't know, talk to us about Superman 2000 and then Superman after 9/11. And then we'll get to Superman in 2025.
Yeah, well, it's a pleasure to be with you, Brad. And yes, Sean Hurley is one of the world's greatest bass players. Very lucky to have him join me once in a while. Well, I'll be seeing him in Hawaii in a couple of weeks.
I love that.
Looking forward to that gig as all we are.
I bet.
And of course, Sean's played with John Mayer, some huge icons. And but yeah, I think for me, I was very blessed to realize my childhood dream of being a singer-songwriter, and I had success very late, actually. I'm one of those 15-year overnight successes.
Right, exactly.
Struggled for a long time, but as you mentioned, in early 2000, I put out a song called Superman, and it was different than what was on the radio at the time. This was the age of Lilith Fair, boy bands, grunge music. It wasn't 1977 listening to Billy Joel and Elton John, and so it was a little piano song, and it struggled initially, but it started to take off globally. And then after 9/11, it became one of the songs that recognized the heroes of 9/11 and kind of the song for the nation. And I was honored to play the concert for New York. And I think that experience really kind of clicked something in my brain, because I saw performing at that concert how music can transcend. And not necessarily with my song. I saw, when The Who came out and blew the roof off Madison Square Garden, and 20,000 people in that crowd, most of them who've been working down at ground zero, digging through rubble, it gave them a release, a reason to cry, to scream, to sing, to hug each other. And I'm like, okay, there's something about music that is unique in breaking down walls, giving voice to the voiceless. And so I think that's, stuck with me. And I never was somebody who kind of, stood on a soapbox and lectured my views and politics, but you can always kind of see in my music, I have a great love for our troops, their experience. I talk about freedom a lot. And then, as you mentioned, in the last few years, I've had a few songs about world events. And again, I I took no pleasure in writing these songs, about the withdrawal for Afghanistan that
Right.
became a voice for Afghan veterans who were gutted by the fact that we abandoned their brothers in arms, some that had saved their lives. And then I'm like, well, hopefully I'll never have to do that again. And then here comes Ukraine. And I write a song about Ukraine. I end up going to Ukraine, performing with the Ukrainian orchestra. But I think, particularly since October 7th, the songs I've been writing and about the Jewish people in Israel have taken on a significance I never could have imagined.
And let's talk about that, because this morning I told my wife I was interviewing you, and I turned the song Superman on Spotify. I mean, within 10 seconds she's crying. I mean, literally within 10 seconds. And even me right now, remembering that and thinking about Superman gets me a little verklempt, if I can use a Yiddish phrase. And I want to get a sense from you how Superman, though, became an anthem for the Israeli hostages, because it's not a direct line.
No, it's not. Superman throughout the years has been used in so many different contexts and so many different wonderful causes. And again, I'm so blessed to have that little song. That's
not so little, not so little.
Yeah. Well, it started as just a little song I wrote in 45 minutes, but it's had so many different reaches. And about 3 months after October 7th, after October 7th, I wasn't planning on writing a song about anything. There's no song that can, kind of talk about the atrocities of October 7th. But I was so discouraged and frankly angry about the world basically turning their back on Israel and the Jewish people, the media, of course, musicians, the arts, certainly members of Congress, had all of a sudden taken on this, genocide, free Palestine mantra. And I was so angry, I wrote a song called "Okay, We're Not Okay," because we were not okay. Yeah. The culture's broken. And that song, kind of like Blood on My Hands for Afghanistan, kind of like Moments of Ukraine, became a voice for so many Jewish people around the world who felt abandoned by so many different people and organizations because they had been. And
I have to say, I am kind of the living embodiment of that, in that, I always saw Jew hatred as, some fringe right-wingers. Yeah. After October 7th, oh my God, I mean, the explosion of left-wing Jew hatred was so out of nowhere, at least for me. And now in the last 6 months, we've seen Jew hatred explode on the right again with Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens. And I have to say, voices like yours, have been so appreciated. But okay, so you write, "Okay, we're not okay." Thank you for that. But you did so much more than that. As, by the way, I may be giving away the punchline, you're not Jewish.
No.
I mean, you're not Jewish. I read somewhere you happen to have a Jewish wife. I'm sorry about that. Just kidding. But be that as it may, I mean, this is not about your tribe per se. So why is it? What happened that said to you, Superman is an anthem, I'm going to rewrite a few lyrics to make it apply for the 250 plus hostages rotting in Gaza?
Well, after "Okay" kind of became that song, I was invited to go to Israel, and I did, April 2024. And part of my experience there, I went to Shiva Hospital. I met with wounded soldiers. We played guitar together. I went to the hostage forum. I met with many of the hostage families. So I sat across the table from them, and my son Johnny was with me, 24 years old. And I kept looking at my son going, that could be my son in a tunnel in Gaza. So I became close with the some of the hostage families. I also had the experience of being bombed by Iran. I was there the night that Iran bombed Israel for the first time. So
yeah, I read that.
I also experienced the Jewish reality. And then over time, we kept seeing kind of the hostages and lose, kind of get pushed to the side. You know, you're
But
of
can
my,
I ask you, if I may, John,
yeah,
because I think you're being humble when you talk about you going to Israel, because not only did you go to Israel, but you went to Hostage Square. And
right.
I was at Hostage Square before all the hostages were released back in October 2025. It's a very moving location. And not only did you go to Hostage Square, Chills, you sat with one of the hostages' brothers, uh, who is a piano player, as well as the hostage himself. His name, of course, being Alone Hole. I think I said that correctly. And you sang Superman, the new version of Superman, with his brother playing piano.
Well, again, it was quite the experience to perform at Hostage Square for the nation of Israel. For me, I never thought I'd have any experience close to the concert for New York, but this was just as moving and frankly as painful. And about 7, 8 months ago, Alone's mother, Edith, reached out to me and she said, nobody's really focused on the hostages anymore. What can we do to shine the light on their plight? And certainly music is a way to do that. And initially we were thinking about, well, maybe we should write a new song. Maybe we should do some kind of We Are the World thing. And then I thought about Superman. And I thought, for Superman, most people recognize it as the 9/11 song. And of course, October 7th is Israel and the Jewish people's 9/11.
9/11 it is, yeah.
And I'm like, there would be a significance to that. And it's also a song everybody knows. And it was also around the time when you saw all these kind of anti-Semitic raving concerts at Coachella, Glastonbury. You had all these artists, screaming F Israel. And I'm like, perhaps we should do Superman, because it would have more than just a musical statement. It would have a political statement that if you care about 9/11, you should care about October 7th, because basically they're the same thing morally. And so I was thinking about that, and coincidentally, Edith sent me a picture of Alone in his pajamas at 8 years old, and they were Superman pajamas. And so I'm like, we're done. We're doing it. So again, as you know, we made a video with Edith, Ronan, her son, playing the yellow piano in Israel. That is Alone's piano. That is his piano that sits in Hostage Square. And I'm very glad that the song and the video went global, because it did. It kind of reframed it. And for the first time, this is a great example why music has to be used in the culture war for civilization. A lot of people give speeches, which are fine. A lot of people write op-eds. But I would get emails from parents saying, my kid goes to an Ivy League school. They've been kind of indoctrinated by this kind of anti-Israel Marxist dogma. But for the first time, they saw your video, Superman, with the hostage family on TikTok, and they asked me about the hostages, because nobody talks to them about the hostages, and they think they hear all these lies and this propaganda. So it's important, and what that really showed me again is that the arts has to be part of this war for civilization. You asked me why I'm doing this. I'm not Jewish. This has nothing to do with religion. This has to do with good versus evil, civilization with those who want to tear it down. And it's very simple. I look, the Taliban are bad guys. Putin's a bad guy. Hamas is a bad guy. They're bad guys. So, it shouldn't be hard. Unfortunately, we're in this insane world of cowardice and moral depravity, which you see in the arts. Look, all those musicians that perform with me at the Concert for New York, they know better. They're not 22. They've not been indoctrinated at Harvard, but they're quiet. Many of them are Jewish. And I talked to their people. I said, they know better. They know. They're like, yeah, but they're afraid about, their concerts getting protested. They're afraid for their families, which I get. I have to have extra security. But I say to them, I go, you understand those were the same arguments people used in 1938, right? And they have no argument. They have nothing to say. It's really been a disgrace what we've seen. On the other hand, we just got to do what we got to do. And we're fighting the good fight, and that keeps me going every day.
John, the Wall Street Journal wrote an article about you. The headline was heartbreaking.
Yeah.
The headline, a lone voice singing for Israel. A lone voice. when I
insane.
saw that headline, I melted. I melted.
It's heartbreaking. Yeah, it's hard to even fathom, right? For the lone voice, but also, this guy who has a couple songs people know. It's like, where
Yeah.
are the icons? Where are the people who've been actually lecturing us on human rights for years? Look, the music industry likes to pride itself on Sun City, the Concert for New York, Live Aid. They like to say we're always on the front foot of human rights, but it turns out they're not. And it's been, I think, as a musician, it breaks my heart. But I think it also
And yeah.
reflects the culture of people who have lost their mind. It's a crazy time, but I do think the tide is turning. And as I said, we know we're on the right side. We know we're the good guys.
But here's what's crazy to me if you delve even deeper into October 7th. On that very day, at 6:30 in the morning, there were thousands of people at a music festival.
Yes.
The Coachella of Israel. They were at the Nova Music Festival. 378 musicgoers were slaughtered. 44 were kidnapped. Only 25 were returned. Music was attacked on that day. And yet, you are deemed a lone voice singing for Israel. Where is the rest of the industry when their industry was attacked on October 7th?
To make it even worse, many of the executives in the music industry are Jewish. Ari Emanuel, the biggest agent in the world, is
He
Jewish.
speaks out, though. He does speak out a bit, but there are plenty. Look, you're right,
Yeah.
John. I wish I could disagree with you.
Yeah.
But here's the challenge, and we both face this. I mean, I call myself famous. You're famous. I'm famous, which is a little bit famous. The hate that I receive on social media it's mind-boggling. You can't, just today, I could read the tweets that I've received. I can't imagine what you receive as someone who is famous. And it's true. People are scared. We're scared. Why aren't you scared?
Well, I think part of it is, a lot of the online stuff are bots, right? Because
True.
if you look, and I tell this to Jewish people a lot, it's like, it seems like everybody's against you. The whole world's against you. But if you look at the polls, the majority of Americans support Israel against Hamas.
They do.
Do we have an issue with the younger generation? Yes. I think another great example, if you look at the Eurovision concerts with Idan Golan and the Israel contestants.
I know where you're going. Tell us everything.
Right. So, of course, the critics don't like them. But when the world votes, they vote for the Jewish artists. Now, are they very talented? Yes. Do they sing great? Yes. Are the songs great? Yes. But that's also, I think, a calling of, we have your back. We, the people that nobody listens to, the silent majority, have your back. So again, I think But think about
Idan Golan. The world is 0.2% Jewish.
Yes.
Europe, I don't know, maybe 1% Jewish now. And she won the public vote in Eurovision 2025. She didn't win the contest because the judges didn't vote for her. But she won the public vote. And that was in the middle of the Gaza war.
And you know what else she had? She had to have an armed escort bring her from hotel to the studio. I actually wrote an op-ed about that. And again, another disgrace in the music business. Imagine having an artist have to have an armed escort to escape her hotel to go sing, and nobody out there has a problem with it. Bruce Springsteen, Barbra Streisand, even Bono. Why is the world not standing up screaming, this woman is just singing a song, and she literally has to have an army take her down the street? So again, we could go on and on and on, but I think it's important to understand that the vast majority of the world supports Israel, but we are losing the culture war. That said, I have to have extra security for my tours. And as you mentioned earlier, in the last 6 months, the hate is the same, but now it's coming from the right and the Tucker kind of wacko, Nick Fuentes,
world. Yeah.
Which again, they're not so much death threats. They're just basically the Jew jokes that you think that, that you see in the 30s. They're not very creative, but yeah, it's the hate. I just before I just have to say, because you already said it,
please.
said it earlier that, I always expected, there's anti-Semitism, but it's some nut jobs on the right, some nut jobs on the left. Most of the world is sane, and how wrong we were. And that's, I think, one reason too why I've devoted basically the last 2 years to fighting this fight. Because as you know, it's not just Jewish people. The Jews are always on the front line, but these folks hate America. They hate capitalism. They hate everything about the Western world. That's why you hear nothing about Iran. They care nothing about Iranian freedom fighters. But I'm ranting, but I share your frustration, but I also share the understanding that most of the world understands and supports what we're doing.
You kind of flew by something, and you said I wrote an op-ed.
Yeah.
You've wrote a few op-eds.
Yeah.
Which is pretty good, my friend. And I think one of the most recent op-eds is about what you just said. The silence on Iran. I mean, if you want to talk about a regime that has massacred hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people since 1979, it is Iran. And yet, where are the voices from from Nashville, from New York, from Los Angeles, from whatever music capital you want to talk about? Where are they? On Iran. I mean, Iranians need our support right now. And yet, I mean, when you say crickets, the crickets are louder than what I've heard right now. What's your analysis, John?
Well, again, I think there's multiple reasons, but I think it's truly exposed the fraud of the Free Palestine movement. And I think the Free Palestine movement is based on the fact, the true basis is that we see on our college campuses, that we see in the media, that we see from the usual suspects in Hollywood, is that Israel's an oppressor, Israel's the bad guy, America's an oppressor, America's the bad guy. But when you have an actual oppressor, Iran, murdering, committing atrocities against actual freedom fighters, people standing up for freedom, dying for freedom in Iran, it breaks every cell in their brain. They can't acknowledge the fact that, maybe somebody not in the West is committing the atrocities. So for them to acknowledge that, what I think show them that they are the fraud. It exposes the con job that is Free Palestine. Yeah. So they can't fight it in their brain. So they have to be quiet. And so, again, I think it just shows it's not even hypocrisy. It is evil. What it is evil. When you basically prop up the Free Palestine movement, the Gaza Health Ministry, the UN, they have perpetuated the evil that is Hamas. They've allowed it. They've excused it. They've enabled it. So again,
to the detriment of Gazans.
Of course,
to their detriment. I say free Gaza, from Hamas, free Palestine from Hamas.
Of course.
I mean, they're the worst actors in the world.
They have extended this war. They actually, if Joe Biden, and I don't need to get political, but Joe Biden and every world leader in the UN on October 8th have come out and said, this atrocity will not stand. Hamas, we're coming for all of you. You better release the hostages tomorrow. Or not only you going to be under a bomb, Qatar, your funders, Iran, Hezbollah, if that would have happened, there would have been no war. Of course, we know what happened. And again, I think Iran is just the latest example of that. But I think it's different because it's very clear to people who I think have been indoctrinated by this lie. I think, people who are not totally like brainwashed are asking the same questions like, well, here are these people in Iran, they're Muslim, they're dying. They don't matter now. So what's all this other stuff I've been told?
I want to talk about the young folks because you did mention them. And I understand you graduated from UCLA, some freaky genius math major or whatever you were. And UCLA was ground zero for some of the worst Jew hatred, not anti-Israel hatred. Jew hatred. I mean, to me, it's one and the same. Yeah. But they had Jew-free zones, and they wouldn't let people who were Jewish walk by. you know, you do have a line to young folks with your music.
Yes.
And you speak. I mean, you spoke at UCLA, you speak at various rallies. What can you and we and us do to get to the young folks to explain to them, the complexity of the situation? Look, we all have compassion for what's going on in
Sure.
Gaza. I mean, everyone deserves a wonderful life. But the blame that is placed on Israel for all the problems in the Middle East, it's just so outlandish. And so what do you say to the young folks? I'm sure you talk to them.
Well, I spoke at Cornell, who's famous for being one of the other ground zeros for this.
Yeah.
And it's really hard because this is not unique to post October 7th. When I was in Israel, I spoke to Natan Sharansky, who everybody knows is kind of
Refusenik, Soviet Refusenik.
And he's Ukrainian, and we were talking about my Ukrainian song, and he said something that has stuck with me since that moment. He said, somebody asked him 20 years ago, what's the biggest threat to the Western world? 20 years ago, they asked him this. 20 years ago, he said American academia, because he saw it in Russia. He lived it. So what's gone on in our universities is nothing new. It's Marxist, it's anti-American.
Can I tell you, I have two daughters, both in college at different levels. I had no idea. I had no idea. I mean, until October 7th, I mean, look, they're having positive experiences, and not every professor is warped and, and focused on Palestine or whatever it may be. But there is an infection in academia. It's just undeniable. There's a spreading infection.
Yeah, and it's incredibly dangerous. And as I said, it's very hard to turn off the spigot when it's been going on for 20 years. And I think there's multiple things you can do. And I think it's not just kids. I think it has to start with the parents. And it's hard because parents have their schools they want their kids to go to, maybe their legacy. Parents need to stop sending their kids to these schools. And that'll be the first thing that gets their attention. And for the kids, part of the reason that you look at the polls and you see so many of our younger generation supporting Hamas over Israel is they get most of their information from social media, from music, from
TikTok.
the art, from TikTok. And so all these op-eds, this stuff we write, the stuff we're talking about now, they are not exposed to this. So I said this at the RJC convention, and I said to everybody, it's like, we're losing this war because particularly people, conservative people in Israel and in America who fight this fight do not understand the value of the arts. They think their speech is going to matter. I'm sorry, it doesn't. You know what matters? A song, a collaboration with a Jewish artist and a non-Jewish artist. Things that come on Instagram, on TikTok, where they see that and go, that goes against everything I've been told. Maybe I should look into that. It's artists speaking up, and it can't be 6-year-old dudes like me. It needs to be younger artists that have a moral center. There's a few of them, but we have to. That's the way you get to the kids, Brad.
60-year-old dudes, though, with songs that are anthems like Superman, do have some cachet still.
No, I think, again, Superman, okay, we're not okay. The song for the hostages, they certainly have impacted in a powerful way. But imagine if Taylor Swift did a duet with Matisyahu.
Which you actually performed with Matisyahu.
Yeah, but imagine if, people of iconic stature, if Bono did a duet with Edon Reichel, things like that really crash through all of the narratives, and people start asking themselves, I've talked about this, for years. Imagine we had a concert for New York, but it was Israeli artists, American artists, Ukrainian artists, Iranian women, and we were all singing together, singing for freedom. Imagine how that would affect the mindset of the world. People would say, well, if you support Ukraine, well, why don't you care about the women massacred at the Nova concert? Yeah. If you care about women in Iran who are dying right now, why do you care about Israeli women who are raped and defiled? And so all these questions that people talk about, they with music, they force people to ask themselves that, you know? So again, there's ways we can do it, but to be honest with you, a lot of folks don't understand that. And that's one thing I've been pushing for the last year and a half, is that we have to include the arts in this culture. Israel always wins the war, right? They always win the war. They always lose the culture war. And why is that? And that's what we have to analyze going forward.
And I am so appreciative to you for shining a bright light on what has been happening in the United States, in North America, in Europe, in Israel, and around the world. We need allies, and you have been such a strong and valiant ally on our behalf. We will forever be grateful. Keep fighting the fight. We're fighting it with you. By the way, John has his own charity. It's called whatkindofworlddoyouwant.com. And you can donate to that charity. It helps Afghans, ALS research, fighting anti-Semitism, Ukraine. You're a good man, John Ondrasik. I am so appreciative. Can you believe that one of our greatest allies is the writer, singer, songwriter, John Ondrasik? His anthem is Superman. Quick, can you sing out a couple of bars of Superman, the few bars that you changed on behalf of the Israeli hostages?
Yeah, we changed a few lines to make it a little more hopeful for Alone. And it was, wish that I could cry, fall upon my knees. And here's where it changes. Find a way to fly to a home I will soon see. And you know, Brad, that miracle happened. I'll be singing Superman with Alone in D.C. coming up very soon. I'll be sitting at that piano. And for all the hell we've been through, these moments of joy truly shows that there is grace, there are miracles, and we are winning. So I look forward to sharing that with the world as well.
His name is John Ondrasik. I am Brad Pomerance. Don't forget to like, subscribe, 5 stars, all of it. This is Can You Believe?